coaches, it can be players. Which 3 Cowboys do you think go into 2023 with the hottest seat? And just to tip my hand, and hottest seat in terms of they might lose their job, not hottest seat in terms of you were sitting back and watching and being like, you are working those silver pants. All right, I wanted to clarify. So if you have thoughts about that as well, I do not want to censor you. Feel free to send them in. Is the Cowboys and Tyron Smith are working on restructuring their contract?
Yes.
That is such a fake fist pump right there.
This is the year he's healthy. I feel it. That he's going to play all 17 games where he's never going to be on the injury report, and we're going to get the Tyron Smith of 2016.
You know what? To be fair,
which was the last year that Tyron Smith, I believe, was a healthy football player.
And I think I can't remember if it was on Pro Football Talk. They were like, Tyron Smith ran into some injury concerns last year. I thought, no, you have really undersold the breadth of how long this has been going on. So I told you what I thought they might do. I thought they might just move on from him outright, because if you do it post June 1st, that would save you $13 million. And this is the last year officially on the contract, even though next year he still has a $4 million salary cap hit, even when he's out of contract. But when you hear this, here's what I wonder is they talk pay cut, but I wonder if they talk pay cut and also say, we'll kick you some more guaranteed money for 2024, because that feels like it is the MO of the Cowboys. That is what they did for DeMarcus Lawrence. That is what I believe they will do for Dak Prescott. That is what they did for Ezekiel Elliott. Like, you see it time and time again. Is Tyron Smith's at the top of my list, because if they're restructuring, that means they're planning on keeping him. And if they're planning on keeping him, they're planning on keeping him as a starter. Like, you remember when we talked with Steven and Jerry, they're like, we asked about the idea of him rotating or maybe coming off the bench, and they're like, I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And I get that. I'm not disputing that. But, like, so is Jason Peters, and you were okay with rotating him.
The great news is you know who's about to go in the Hall of Fame?
Zach Martin.
Well, Jason Witten. And he's a Hall of Fame tight end.
Yeah.
We should bring him back after losing. I mean, he's playing at his, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're always in your prime, according to the Jones family, or when you're watching a telecast like Jason Peters and Tyron Smith are future Hall of Famers. Yeah, you know what? They're like 5 years away from being in the Hall of Fame, because they are old ass players who struggle at times. And I'm very happy with what Peters did last year. Great job. Tyron Smith, he did come back.
He did.
And he played.
He struggled at first. I think he did get better. I will certainly agree.
And so I'm not, opposed to bringing him back, but I'm just looking at games played, and I was wrong. 2015 was the last time he played 16 games. It was 13, 13, 13, and 13. That's 2016 through 2019. So each year he missed 3 games. And then in 2020, he played 2. In 2021, he played 11 of 17, and then this year he played 4 of 17. I'm expecting him. I think 13 is out of the possibility. I'm expecting 8 would be what you get out of him. He's going to miss 9 games. Maybe it's opposite. Maybe he plays 9, misses 8. But, hey, I think that when you're the Cowboys, hopefully they're smart enough to understand, fine, bring Tyron Smith back. He's going to miss half the season. And you're just maybe hoping that it's early in the season so he's healthy in the playoffs. I don't know which one they want.
I mean, I think they saw that play out last year, and we were told what was the running joke is meat of the schedule, right? Meat of the schedule.
So now we know the meat. So when we talk to Jerry, the meat is the final 4 games of the year.
Yeah. I still don't know if that played out the way they thought. So
he also thought Dak Prescott with 7 screws and a plate in his thumb was going to miss 1 game.
I remember that. And that's tough, because if you ever see Ridgeway play, remember, that's who they moved off of, so they didn't have to put Dak on injured reserve. And we were told, but he was in the meetings, and that was a cool deal.
I think what's tough is when Jerry says stuff like this, there's people in the media who actually believe it. And then, like Ezekiel Elliott, I remember talking to Mickey, and we're like, no, they told us he was hurt all last year, not 2022, but 21. Like, he was dealing with all those things. Like, no, we asked Steven and Jerry throughout the season, like, there's something wrong with Zeke, right? Like, he doesn't look the same. And They're like, no, he's perfect, man. He's perfect. Then the season ends. They lose to San Francisco at home that year. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, hey, guess what, man? Zeke was dealing with injuries, and that's why he's going to be awesome in 2022. You know, It's like, hey, you guys lied to us for 8 weeks about Zeke. You know, let's not go back revisionist history and say that Zeke was dealing with things when you guys specifically came on 105.3 The Fan and said that Zeke is completely healthy.
From the 214, isn't Tyron going to be the swing tackle at this point after a restructure? Don't have to worry about him missing as much if he's just a good paid backup. I'm just telling you from my own Cowboys perspective. I hear your text, and I think it makes sense. And I know there are people who disagree with some of these reports, but my concern is the Cowboys get stars in their eyes, and they're like, you want us to move off of both Tyron and Ezekiel Elliott? Are you crazy? Even though what you see in front of you is all of the savings that can be had for players who are not operating at the level you want them to be. You might well be right, and there might be other people who disagree with me. I'm just worried because I've seen how this organization works, because my initial thoughts were Tyron Smith, Ezekiel Elliott, and Mike McCarthy. And you can make an argument that those two players won't even be on this team. And if that's the case, I think that's just fine. Okay. But I worry that they will be.
I think Tyron's your starting left tackle next year. So, for 8 games.
And then Tyler moves to left guard.
Tyler has to learn 2 positions. Tyler's going to be a starting left guard, and then for half the season, he's going to be your starting tackle.
That feels like something the Cowboys will do, and I don't love it just because I thought Tyler Smith, especially as a rookie, especially with the late start he got for that, I thought he did a heck of a job at left tackle. Plenty of room to get better. I honestly thought you started to see elements of this offensive line. When you lost Terrence Steele, you started to get hurt a little bit more, but with Terrence Steele supposedly ready to go, he's going to be cheap. He's going to be $4.2 million. I can live with Steele, Martin, Biotish, McGovern, and younger Smith. And I know with McGovern, they would have to get something done there, but not every single person you don't need to have Tyron Smith, first rounder, Tyler Smith, first rounder. Like, it doesn't have to be like that, because I think Connor McGovern, for way cheaper, can give you something serviceable.
I guess you just worry about McGovern his first 3 years didn't really develop quickly, and neither did Connor Williams. So you get to like their 3rd or 4th year, like, all right, now they're starting to develop into a starter, where it seems like the Cowboys, I'm going to give them all the credit in the world. Man, whoever they take in the first round is an immediate impact.
Yes,
like they have for a decade, besides Taco Charlton, they're like 9 out of 10 in somewhat having immediate impacts from their first round picks.
Yeah, and so the other person I put on the list was Mike McCarthy. Yardbarker on their list, they put Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, and Neville Gallimore. Quite frankly, I do not know if Neville Gallimore makes his way to this team in 2023. And as far as Dak Prescott goes, I am more convinced than ever that a contract extension will get done. Let me point it out.
I bet Gavin Dawson good money that he's still the starting quarterback in 2026 here.
Wow. And so he says no, I'm assuming.
Right.
That.
He feels like he has 1 to 2 more years. And I'm like, no, Jerry does not want to work that hard, and neither does Steven. You know how hard it is to move off of a good quarterback to try to get a great quarterback? They're going to be like, dude, we're keeping him until he physically can't play.
So the fundamental difficulty about moving on from Dak, and again, I just want this known before people start destroying me on the fan text. I'm just delivering you what I think will happen. Is there's no part of me that's saying this is what needs to happen or else we're all idiots. Is Dak Prescott's salary cap hit over the next 2 years is $101.3 million. Then the next 2 years, what do the Cowboys do when they get in this emergency type of situation? They either restructure, which usually includes tacking on another year or giving guaranteed money later on down the line, or they do a contract extension. I am firmly of the belief that they will give Dak Prescott a contract extension to help lower that money. And what they're going to say is now all of a sudden Dak gets a, whatever the hell you want to say. If you want to go with the Daniel Jones thing again or what he did last time, 4 for $160, fine. If you want to say it's going to be 4 for $180, fine. I'm not here to judge that part of it, because what they're going to say is his salary cap, because people are going to be like, oh my gosh, $45 million a year. What they're going to say is, did you see we just lowered his cap hit by $25 million? And they're all going to high five and be like, we've done it again. We're geniuses. Prepare yourself, because I firmly believe that is what's going to happen. And I see people texting in and saying, this is one of the reasons that the Cowboys run into problems time and time and time again. And then from the 817, don't you mean 2036, Bassick?
No, he won't be healthy by then.
Okay.
But I do think you're
What's
looking...
your cutoff point? If you had to guess right now.
He's 30 this year?
Yes.
7 more years.
Okay. So you think 29.
Yeah, 2029, I put Dak's job in jeopardy with the Cowboys. And I'm not being sarcastic. I know I can be.
I know.
People like, are you being? No, I do think that he is the starting quarterback for the next 7 years of the Dallas Cowboys.
From the 903, their biggest people on the hottest seats this year, Tyron Smith, Michael Gallup, Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown is another really interesting one. I want to see what they are going to end up doing with him and his contract. From the 972, McCarthy, Dak, and Zeke. And from the 972, off with Kevin's head for sharing his opinion on Dak's awful contract. To the guillotine you go. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. I've been very clear about this. Personally, I think you take the hit now. I know that the Cowboys have other salary issues. I think you take the hit now and wait it out, because in these next 2 years, if you don't already know what you need to know, you will. And you either one way or another, you take the hit now, figure out how to move on if you've decided he's not the guy. Or what I think the deal is, Mike, I think they've decided he can be the guy. And so what do you do for those people? You give them contract extensions. You lower their salary cap money. And again, everyone can high five one another and go back to hanging out and doing non-football stuff.